I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, so Janet. Okay, Silly and Janet. All right, any discussion on content? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll move to roll call then. Kevin? Okay, Tom?
Here.
Zilly?
Yes.
Janet?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Aye. And Rosalie? Oh, now you're muted again. Did you say yes?
Yes, I'm having technical difficulties, but yes, I'm here.
No, but it's the night of technical difficulties, so no problem. Okay, great. Quick committee member update. So I neglected to say this at the last meeting. I apologize, but Kim Philpott is moving to Maine, and so she has to step down. So just publicly, I wanted to thank her for all her contributions, not only to our group, but to the town, and she will be very much missed. So. All right, moving on then to our downtown initiatives update. I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all. So I've got some bigger updates. A lot of times I get in the weeds with some really technical, specific things that we're working on, but I wanted to give some bigger ones tonight. The first one is that we're moving through the process of creating an RFP on the former highway garage downtown. We've talked about that building as, in my humble opinion, a linchpin on the potential for economic development downtown and further investment. For that space, town owns it, town controls it. Town would love to see something that goes in there to activate the space. One of the first steps, though, is to create an RFP, a request for proposal, which basically is the vehicle that people use to put an application forward to purchase the property. And what they'll include is not just a purchase price, but also what the intent for the property would be and what value it will bring to the town, specifically an economic development perspective. And so Donna Rich on our team has been working with MAPC, Massachusetts Area Planning Council, who is supporting our effort in helping us through hopefully some technical assistance in crafting that. It's a very technical RFP. It's not your standard purchase of pens and paper. So we want to get it right. And we've got some expertise available to us that we're looking to leverage. So a letter this week will go to them, a letter of intent. And then we should hear back hopefully in the next couple of weeks if they're willing to take on the project. We have had a couple phone conversations with them, a number of them about the project and how exciting it is. And fingers crossed they'll feel the same way when they hear our letter of intent. And we'll be able to move forward. One of the timing wise, we're hoping to have something that can hit the street late winter, early spring. But between now and that time, once we get some the RFP pulled together, we want to go back to the community with some of the pieces of what that RFP might look like. Make sure we're still aligned. We've got some great feedback to date on that project and what people might want to see there, which we'll start to incorporate into that RFP. But we'll go back to the community. We'll also talk to people in the business community, investors, entrepreneurs, property owners, restaurateurs, and others who might potentially either be interested or could find someone who might be interested, just to let them know that the project's making its way through the pipeline and that if they have any thoughts on it to share, because once we go to RFP at that point, it's closed and the town will sit back for 60 to 90 days while people have a chance to pull an application together and submit it. I will warn that it's not a guarantee that someone will apply. It's not, it does need some work, but I think that's where the opportunity with this project is. There's been a lot of examples of where former highway garages or municipal buildings have been transformed into higher and better uses, especially one right now that's sitting there for just storage for the town and not serving any real practical purpose beyond that for the community as a whole. But we're hopeful we'll be able to promote it and get some support and see a positive result. So that's one that's starting to get some legs and we'll be moving very shortly. And we're really excited about that.
Kevin, could I just ask you before we move on to the next one, how do you see the ECDC participating in either putting the RFP together or in once it's launched, any role communicating with the town or in any capacity?
I think there's two real ways that the ECDC could be supportive in the effort. One being the public engagement component of it locally, and helping us with getting the word out when we do a public meeting, or to talk to your neighbors and let them know what's going on with the project. If you have people ask you questions or proactively have the opportunity to do so. And then second, if you know anyone who might be interested in investing in that property, to make sure that they or people they might know are aware of the opportunity early in the process, because there's earlier the better, that people know about this and that it's coming, so they can start preparing for hopefully putting an application in for it.
Thank you, Kevin. And not to cut you off again, but before we get too much into the meeting, if I could just break and turn it over to Zilly, because I think Zilly has an announcement that's of great interest to the town.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Lynn. I think I already told a few of you, or I emailed a couple of you, that we announced today that our Zoomies, our coffee shop, we've decided to open a second location in Topsfield. So that's super exciting. It's something we had started thinking about when the downtown revitalization conversations were really happening, because before that we hadn't really felt, both for our family, like the timing of our family with our kids being younger, and then also just the dynamics of Topsfield. We weren't sure if it would really be a worthwhile venture for us, but with the revitalization conversations, we started to take it more seriously. And we'll be in the location next door to Fresh Look, where the bake shop had a storefront. One thing I really hope people understand, and we try to convey this in our press release without being super direct, because it's just that we only opted to move forward when we understood that it was going to be vacated no matter what. And if it wasn't us, it would have been somebody else, or who knows. So whatever went down with the bake shop and their landlords, we steered totally clear of. And I hope that people understand that, because we certainly don't want, we would never, ever, 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 ever in a million years initiate the removal of another business. We're just trying to fill the vacancy. But so we're excited.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah, we're very excited for
I
you.
can share that piece that we try to, so you're aware.
Yeah, that's great, Zilly. We're so happy that your first shop has been so successful and that you chose Topsfield as a place to expand. I'm sure you're going to be very welcomed there. Do you have any idea when in 2022 you're going to be moving in?
Yeah, well, our first shop opened on Valentine's Day, so we thought that would be a good target. Hopefully with a soft open possible before then, but there's a lot of things we want to do and a lot of work that's going to have to go into the space. So we'll see how the timeline works, but that's our target. And we already have lots of ideas for fun activities that we can, just fun things that we can do downtown.
That's great. Well, welcome.
Thanks.
Woohoo! Oh, absolutely. More energy, the better. Yep.
Tom, I think you've been trying to get us, I feel like it was like 7 or 8 years ago.
No kidding. Yes, I did. Yes, I did, with the 3 sisters that owned this building before, when the bake shop way over where the Beth had her place. Yes, and it just wasn't the right time. But yes.
Yeah. We needed a longer lease than the 3 sisters could give us. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Zilly, for sharing the news with us here.
Thanks for inviting me to.
All right, back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Well, Zilly, congratulations. And just as you're moving through the process and however we can be helpful, we've talked about the project review team with this group and, individually, just let us know how we can be helpful as you move forward.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Exciting. So the next item I just wanted to update is, and we've talked about this one for some time as well, is the concept of a master plan here in Topsfield. With all the momentum that we have and all the exciting ideas and opportunities with our downtown and our Route 1 and throughout the community, we've been talking for almost 2 years about the concept of doing that, having a master plan. And so we've applied for different buckets of funding to help us do that. And last year with COVID, a lot of focus of funds were going towards COVID relief, things of that nature. And to be honest with you, we were just head down trying to deal with the ramifications of a pandemic. But we continue to try to identify sources and apply for grants. And we feel that we might be confident. I can't say anything officially on this call, but we feel confident that we might be awarded 6 figures to help us do just that, a master plan here in Topsfield, which is super exciting. And so if we're successful, we will be undertaking a pretty heavy lift in the months, year plus to come, because that's usually what it takes. And just for everyone to remember, master plan, it's an effort that communities undertake every 10 to 15 years, sometimes 20 years, to reassess their priorities as a community around protecting resources, but also smart development, where they want to focus, investment to take place around housing, businesses and retail like Zoomies and others, and really trying to do it in a thoughtful way. But the really interesting part of a master plan is the focus on a public engagement. And what communities will do is they'll bring on a consultant who will work hand in glove with the community. In Topsfield, it'll be myself, it'll be Martha Morrison, the planning board, and we'll definitely be leaning on others to help creating a steering committee, likely some members of the ECDC, we hope as well, which can help us through that process from a town and a partnership with a consultant. And then we'll be going out and creating a number of different opportunities and platforms for people to participate and give feedback of what they want to see in their community. And then all that information will be gathered. It'll also be an opportunity for education, public education around what we can do with the zoning that exists and what could be done with changes to that zoning. Ultimately, helping us, again, ensure that we're protecting our resources. We have great open space. We have historic areas that are just quintessential New England. And we have a downtown that a lot of communities in this area, they don't have, that we're striving to continue to revitalize and make great. We also have Route 1, and we have a lot of people that come down 97 and 95, and there's just so much opportunity with the fair as well. How do we leverage all that to do what we're trying to do in these meetings? And so those funds are going to be really, really helpful in now allowing us to take that next step forward. Again, if successful, but reading the tea leaves, I think we have a good shot at this to move master plan forward. And so with that, there'll certainly be a lot of conversations that this group, we hope to have to help us through the process and participate in the process, we hope. So that's the second piece of information / news that I can't really give yet.
Well, you did. You did.
Well, not yet, Tom, because I don't want anyone taking.
All right, 90%.
90%. But it's important because if we are successful in receiving funding to support this effort through the source that we've applied for, we're going to have to move very quickly. Master plans take 12 months plus. Average is usually like 16. We can be aggressive. We can make it as big or as little as we want it to be, but we want to be comprehensive. And so we've already started the process of talking. We've identified a few firms that we're going to reach out to proactively to let them know that if we're successful, that we're going to be pursuing this and let them start thinking about on their end. We'll have to, if successful, draft an RFP that will have to go out as well. So it'll be a big, heavy lift and it will be time consuming, but in my opinion, it is rock solid, and it's incredibly important that we do it well, and that we do it so that we can keep this momentum going, and this in a very broad and comprehensive and public.
And Kevin, thank you so much for giving us your anticipated outcome. As you mentioned, the planning board does spearhead this. So Martha Morrison, and her team will be heading this up, and think we're in good hands with Martha and joined at the hip by Kevin. And, I'm sure as we move forward, we'll find out more how we can participate as the ECDC and help out. And I'm assuming, Kevin, that once a master plan is developed, it opens some more doors for funding opportunities?
Would hope so. Yeah. I think that the process wise would be, we can speak to that in grant applications that we've gone through a recent master plan process. So if we're hypothetically looking to protect for open space purposes some land, we might go for a DCR grant to purchase that land. And the master plan that identified through public engagement that that's a parcel that's a high concern area or heavily used area that might be on private property currently that we would want to purchase. That master plan could speak to it and help support those efforts. Absolutely.
Can you remind me what DCR stands for?
Department of Conservation and Recreation. Glad I had that one off my top of my head.
Good job. Good job. All right. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Kevin, can I ask one question about the garage? Are we looking to sell that to someone, or is the town looking to sell that to someone, or to lease it to someone with certain parameters?
Right now, the idea is to disposition it, to sell the property.
Okay.
Somebody can come in and do something on that parcel, sort of free and clear in a sense.
Okay.
And there's some interesting sort of ways that parcel and some actually the budding parcel could complement themselves as well in a lot of ways. So there's the idea would be to fully disposition the property.
Okay, what kind of price range are we talking? Is there an idea of what it would be going for, like a range? Because I'd like to know just what is there?
So price is part of the formula. So on the RFP, it's not like a traditional sale where we'll say, we want $200,000 or $500,000 or whatever.
Right.
We won't speak to that. What we will say is that in the response from a respondent, an applicant, they'll need to name a price. And that's one of the factors, but not the only factor that will determine what we do and receives it. Right. So because our business isn't selling and buying real estate.
Right.
It is for a lot of people. Our business is providing resources and amenities to our community at the end of the day and supporting like you and Zilly who are doing it, and Alex. And so if we can create out of this parcel, right now it's a Blythe property that's not producing any revenue for us for a real estate tax purpose. And if we can clean it up, add an amenity in there that activates the space, we'll see ongoing revenue from it over a period of time. Whereas if a traditional sale, you wouldn't, right? Once you sell your property, you're free and clear in that sense. But because we're a municipality, we'll still have the revenue that comes in off the real estate portion of it, which that plays a factor into it as well. So it's purchase price, the revenue. But I think the most important thing is getting a great project in there that'll stand the test of time and activate that space and hopefully be that linchpin or that initial snowball that could create more opportunities to come as well. It's one parcel. We've got the parcel that you're at, Tom, where you're doing some really great things. We're excited for Zilly and what she's going to be doing, Alex's property, and so many others. And we want to just keep helping support you, because I think if we activate that space, it's obviously going to be a benefit to everybody. No,
right. That's great. So that could be a very good monetarily. That could be good for opportunity for someone, right? It's not like it's going to go for like $700,000, $800,000. It is what it is. And if someone proposes something based on those guidelines, they could actually get it. Is that correct?
It'll be a grading system. Basically,
right,
the RFP, each question will have a grade to it, basically, and you check off the boxes. It'll be a committee that reviews it and makes the determination if it's where it grades, and then ultimately it'll be the select board that will vote on the final product. But it'll be a recommendation that would go to the select board for which applicant. If there's multiple. Okay. Again, though, I do want to hedge, and I don't like to do this, but I've seen it. Distressed properties, ones that haven't had investment in it like this. It's not your traditional real estate sale, so it does take a little extra work to kind of get it out there in the marketplace, to get people to get excited for it and know it's even out there. Typically you'd have a broker who's representing it and they're, pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, clients to come check it out. We're going to try to do that in-house, basically. My background's real estate, so I have no issues with that. We have Lynn's obviously well-versed in that world. Alex, there's all of us, everyone has a piece of that. So, that's why I said at the top, the two things on that we're continuing to support is letting people know that this opportunity will be coming and that it exists as often as we can.
Also, and not to jump the gun, but Kevin will be having our discussion about the business showcase, and the timing is really good because we're anticipating the showcase probably being around June timeframe when the flowers are out and everything looks really nice. The RFP has been, put out there so that we can start to talk to all these brokers and businesses about the opportunity that is there and walk them around. So we'll be getting that in a minute, but the timing is really good with the RFP coming out end of winter, beginning of spring, and then the showcase following it. Janet, did you have a?
I do have a question. Simultaneous though to the RFP, what thought is there about the storage situation for the equipment, the fire equipment, the environmental police equipment? Do we have like a alternative plan that you're considering or presenting to the selectmen about where that's all going to go?
Yeah, no, we've been working on that for over a year. So we've looked at the cemetery space where we do store a lot of equipment up there. Talked to Chief Collins Brown because she uses some of that space as well. Existing highway garage. Right now, we are limited with some of the space on site, but there's some opportunities that could be opening up that would free up some space up there. Some of the purchase price could go towards creating, lean-tos for equipment if that makes sense in certain areas. Cost to do that. So purchase price I'm very confident that at its very least will cover the cost to find new homes if any costs exist. The equipment.
In addition to the equipment, there are now 12 tomato festival scarecrows in there too. So they will have to find a home.
And no, don't worry. It only takes 2 trips in a Tacoma pickup to move them. It won't be too much to move them.
Okay. Anything else, Kevin? I have a couple of quick questions if there's nothing else.
I have one last one. I was just going to say that we had a great meeting a couple of weeks ago with Brian Pierce, our designer on the signs, where we're out on site, which was one of the next steps to determine sort of location and determine, some of the final pieces of the sign design. And I just want to say thank you because I know a number of people on this call were present for that. And you took some time out of your days to join us to help us with that process. And it was very helpful. So thank you.
And that actually was one of my questions. Next steps for that, because I know the group has been involved. And so just where do we go from here in order to finalize that outstanding decision on the font and then to pursue funding? So,
So the final design, Brian took some notes and minutes, and Brian's going to put together a final package for the design. We're already 95% there. It's just some of the final tweaks that we worked through. Location, moving the little dot on the map of where the final location was, for example, and the word Topsfield as another example. Once we have that package, that's our playbook. That's our game plan, right? And then it comes up to a funding. And we're going through right now. Today was a busy day. We had a lot of meetings, budget meetings and capital meetings with the department heads. And I met with my internal team here in the TA's office. And we talked a little bit about possibly putting into the capital plan the signs. We would prefer not using necessarily free cash for them, although there's nothing wrong with that. We have a certain amount of money each year that we use to cover capital projects. And this is an important one. But there might be some real economic development funding out there for us that we're going to try to identify from a grant perspective that might help us offset the costs or maybe cover the costs if we're lucky enough. So we've had tremendous luck in the last couple of years when it comes to grants, and we'll continue to, look underneath every rock for funding so we can offset some of the tax dollars to get some great projects like this done. So those are the next steps at this point.
Okay.
Can I just interject 1 second? I'm sure you probably have thought of this, but it dawned on me after we had that meeting, with Brian and looking at the signage, is that the signs for Route 1, I mean, that's Mass DOT. And they have the sign for Connors Farm on those kinds of highways and those routes. They do put up signs, and maybe they might have the funding. If we present them with the design that we want, that they would have the funding to fund the signs on Route 1. They put up those Topsfield Town Center signs. I know what they sort of blend in with everything else, but I was looking the other day. It does say Topsfield Town Center, like at Central Street. There's a little arrow and a little sign. So, I mean, it might be nice to approach, either Kevin through you or through Neil,
Gary?
to do something through DOT, that find out what their signage program is, or if they have that input and funding.
Sure. It doesn't hurt to ask. Absolutely. I don't know any programs specifically that help for wayfinding signs. Usually that's economic development at the state, but certainly could ask the question. It would never hurt. Although we had a meeting today with the state DOT around the Milebrook Bridge on Perkins Row. And would you say it was very positive. It was actually beyond what I expected of their willingness to work with us from a design standpoint.
Wow.
And that's an example of the state. It's our bridge, but they're going to build it. It's $3.4 million. And they're covering that cost. And it might be a little bit more with some of the design elements that we're requesting that they seem willing to do. But yeah, no, there's little pockets in it, absolutely, in different places. We would certainly look towards to help fund the project for the wayfinding.
Yeah, because you said it was like $9,000 for one of those smaller, signs that was going to be out on Route 1. I mean, that might be something that could be budgeted out of how they put up signs anyway on state highways.
Yeah, definitely. We'll ask the question. It's a good place to look. Certainly.
Okay.
And one last question is the solar bench. Last we knew it was in New York, I think. Has it moved any closer?
It made it to Topsfield. It is in our possession.
Yay.
So one of the things we were thinking about doing was to roll it out. It's kind of getting into the later part of the season, and soon we'll have snow, and we're kind of debating if we want to roll it out right now, right before it gets kind of, the weather starts to change in a negative way. Well, some people love snow and some people like the cold, but typically, spring flowers, everything else, it might be a nice time to unveil it. So one of the thoughts was it comes in pieces. We were thinking of putting it up at the garage and just testing it and putting it out front there for, a few weeks, easy to move inside when the inclement weather comes, just to keep it, protected for now. Although it's a bench, it's meant to go outside. And then, in the early spring, maybe bringing it down to downtown in the area we talked about last month. That's the latest on it. But we've been really with the fair and some other we've had some COVID items that we've been dealing with internally, and some other projects like the Mile Bridge project and some vacations. So we've been limited on numbers of the very recent, and so we were prioritizing some of the other projects at the moment just to keep the basics going until we can kind of catch up on a few things and then kind of tackle the bench. But the bench is in our possession, which is super exciting.
Well, you might consider putting it out near the holiday decorations for the holiday on the green, have it play a little music and add a little flair.
Might be a place to introduce it. Yeah.
Okay. Just one update that I have Sarah Guido from wearing her TCP hat has been working with me and with Kathleen Hunt with the Cultural Council to submit a grant to be able to paint the side of Country Farms. She had it tested and it is lead, so it has to be de-leaded, so to speak. We've talked to one painter so far and gotten a quote. She's talking with another one, but the grant is being written, and this grant is to support economic development and the beautification of downtowns and bringing more people in. So we had talked about possibly thinking about a mural for the side of that building, maybe something historic. There's so many options, but the first thing you'd have to do is to clean up the base and just paint the side of it. So anyway, we'll be moving ahead with that. That grant is due second week in November, and we should hear shortly after that. We have gotten pretty good feedback that we are a real contender to get the funds. So that would be a huge improvement to have the side of that building painted. And Kevin has been in communication with Country Farms, and they're very amenable to moving forward with that. So
Awesome.
that's exciting. And yeah, okay. So to our business showcase, Kevin.
Thank you. So last big item I wanted to share was something that's been on my mind since I first took the job almost 2 years ago. And that's sort of recruitment. And we've talked about this earlier in our ECDC process. At some point, one of the bigger priorities would be trying to recruit businesses into the downtown, as well as developers and people who want to invest in the community. And one way I think could be hopefully a boon would be to really do a focused effort to showcase what we have and refer to it as a business showcase. And what it would be is an opportunity for us to reach out to real estate professionals, business owners, both retail, restaurants, coffee shops, whatever might make good sense, as well as developers and others who are potential for investment in the community, and invite them to come to Topsfield one day. We're targeting maybe in the springtime. Give us time to set up, and it would time up well with some of the other things we talked about with the RFP for the garage. And then if there's some other effort that we hope is successful, the master plan that might be in the middle of that as well, which could make a lot of sense to kind of tell people that we're serious about what we're doing here. But what it is an opportunity to sort of let people know what we've been up to and the opportunity that exists here in Topsfield, because it's real. It absolutely is. We all know it. I don't think everybody knows yet, but we're building that foundation to share with everybody what we have and what we want to deliver. And so what we'll do is we'll probably put together a presentation and let them know, about the garage RFP, and if we're under the master plan, if we're doing that, the master plan, but also the lights and the TCP and their existence. The fact that we have them is incredible. The ECDC, the fact that we have this group. Let them know about the project review team that we do, and trying to make the process easy for people as they come in, they have early understanding what's needed. Also share some data. We've got some great traffic counts that have helped us from a policing standpoint and safety standpoint, but also that's great data of how many vehicles come downtown or right up to our downtown. And then with the wayfinding signs, hopefully bring them into the downtown, that last step. Let people know about those items as well, and all the other things that we've been doing, the country farms and just everything. There's a story to be told, and we want to tell it. And so the hope of that would then be to, after we share all this in a presentation form, maybe it's upstairs, haven't worked out the details, maybe it's upstairs here at the call, maybe it's in a space downtown. I'm not sure yet, details, we can work through that, but would then to be sort of a tour of the opportunities in town. Take a tour on Route 1, take a look at the garage, take a look at other spaces that might be vacant at that time. And just let people know that these are places that are important to us, places that we'd like to see something happen and encourage it and support it. And then offer lunch, because people come for food, right? So we'll offer some lunch, and then we'll let people break. And then we certainly want to make sure we have follow up with those people who participate and attend, and make sure we're in contact with them, so we can create our group, our network, that we can use both in the immediate and long term as we try to do the things we're doing. Because those people that we'll bring in, they're willing to take their time and share their and listen to what we do. Those are people we want to partner with in the future, and that's that opportunity to get their attention and bring them in. What the thought is on that, because that'll be some work to put towards that as well. So there's a lot happening on the economic development, big ticket items coming up, right? So this is where we really look hopefully to the ECDC to help as well, is maybe it's a subcommittee, maybe it's the whole, but love to work with you folks to help us kind of pull it together. Some of the things would be just the presentation. It's something I'll probably work on, but share with you folks, and you can put some thought into it. But even just getting invitations made, right, and getting those out to people, creating the list of people we want to send those invitations to, and then getting them to them, right. Data collection. We've got some data already, but other information that might be useful. We talked about it during our goal setting for the select board and town, was getting an inventory of vacant spaces on Route 1. It's not really that easy. We don't have, it just doesn't exist. It's something that's kind of on our radar, something we want to do. But this might be the opportunity where we really dig in and try to find that information, get that data of what opportunities might exist there as well. But there's plenty to do on this, even just identifying, where we're getting lunch for people. But those are things that you have to think about. And it's part of the whole package and what we're trying to deliver. So, that to me, that we've gone to a point, over the last 2 years, even through COVID, when we put pause on a lot of the really great things we wanted to do, just to, keep us moving as a town through the pandemic. We've still done enough along the way, enough exciting things that, we think the time might be right to go out into the marketplace and grab people's attention now. We're still on that upward trajectory. We want to keep it going.
It's a great opportunity too to talk about all the other things that are in town, apart from the downtown, that would bring people to the town and then do something in the downtown. So, whether you go apple picking and then go downtown to browse the quaint shops that we have, or walk the trails of the Audubon, or do river kayaking and then grab lunch, or do some sledding on the hill and then go grab a hot chocolate. Just things experiences that would make Topsfield unique and stand out from other towns. So paint a whole picture of why this is such a great place to visit, and then shop, eat, and enjoy yourself and invest.
Yeah,
very exciting.
I'd love to be involved. Kevin. I think that's a great idea. It's like a Topsfield open house, right? So yeah, happy to help on that.
Thanks, Alex. I'll take you up on it. That's great. Thank you.
Plus the community alone is so positive. I mean, I see hundreds of thousands of people, and I mean, it's about what we have, but the people that we have in the town and the residents, I mean, everyone is just so upbeat and so positive and so willing to help and lend an ear. And I mean, that's a really big thing. And I mean, I'm like amazed when I see it every day. It really is awesome.
You're right, Tom. And they're so supportive of the local businesses too. So anyone coming in here know that the town will make it a point to shop and to visit and to support the businesses that are here.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Any questions for Kevin on the thought
Just what date or what time frame are you thinking of for the showcase? Like April, May, June?
Probably sometime spring-ish. I don't know for certain right now, Jan. I mean, that's part of the broader conversation, because the other piece we talked about kind of play into it too, and understand timelines around that. But yeah,
because we have our big expo that we do in April, just to make sure you look at the calendar of some of these events that are going on. So, but that's just to take into consideration when you start zeroing in on dates.
How do we leverage that, right? So like, we have thousands of people that come to that event.
We have about 1,100. We have anywhere from 900 to 1,100 people that come to that.
Right. The Strawberry Festival will be even more if they do it this year.
We're going to do it this year. We're in.
Yeah.
Rosie says,
as long as the COVID doesn't go crazy again, Sean and I already talked that, we're moving forward this year.
That's great news.
So that's usually the beginning of June.
That's the second Saturday in June. Our expo is, I think, the second Saturday in April. So you have bookends if you wanted something in between, or if you wanted to, just throwing out the dates, just to keep in mind that there's a couple big events in that time. Spring is always a big event because it's spring and things happen like in the schools and everything. So
another thing too, just thinking of weather-wise and how the town looks, Right after Memorial Day, I think the flowers go up and the flowers look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
If you did it in June, you probably have a better chance of nice weather to walk around the town than
I agree.
April. It can be kind of cold and rainy, and it's hit or miss if you want to bring them out and about. So I think the flowers are a big draw too, because they're so beautiful once they're up. They give a certain feel to the town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to ask if have you seen this done before in other communities?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough when I was in Beverly to be part of the team that did this in Beverly. So we've done something. It was a different scale, and it was a little bit different how it was rolled. But
Really, Beverly was a different scale from Topsfield.
slightly.
Shocking.
But it was it went really, really well. We had a few projects that actually came out of the ground as a result of that people pointed to and said, I never knew Beverly this is when we first started in 2015. And it was right before a lot of what we were able to accomplish from a revitalization. It took a few years. Like anything else, like in Beverly, to get it going.
Yeah.
And it was right at the beginning. And then by the time a couple of projects hit the ground, they had started their process right before, things started to really surge. And they said, never thought of Beverly as an opportunity to invest, but you've got 5 train stations, you got easy access to 128, you've got a downtown, you've got, density downtown, things of that nature. And that's why they did it. So the story's a little bit different in Topsfield, right? But there's a story to be told, like I said, and this is the opportunity to really put that together. One of the things I would love to do, and I didn't mention this, we'll get into the details as we progress through the process, right? But one of the things that would be really great, I think, is to get a video professionally done that talks about Topsfield. And, there's something happening on the North Shore in Topsfield, and why, list some of the things that are going on, some of the data points, and just have something that we put on the website thereafter that people can click on and remind themselves about some of the data, some of the interesting things we're doing, and just the beauty of the community, right? So there's a lot we could do with this, and it's been done before. I haven't heard of any other community that's done something just like this other than Beverly, but again, it's a lot of work. That might be part of it, to be honest with you. But it's a lot of good work. It's important work, and you don't do it every year, but you do it when it's right, and it sort of sets, hopefully, to keep the momentum going in a positive way.
Kevin, how many people turn out for something like this? What's your estimate of how many people we would be entertaining at the showcase?
So I would go to a lot of my existing contacts to be direct on it. I'd hit the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce, Beverly Main Streets, my contacts there. I'd go to some of the developers in Beverly that I've worked with and I know who've been successful, that are good to work with. I'd go to the restaurants I know in town. I'd go to the retail I know in the town. But I expand that too, right? Like we've made relationships with the Drumlin Group, who I never met before, who were out of Salem but represent here in Topsfield. We've talked with the different real estate groups that exist here in Topsfield as well. Talk to breweries, talk to, anybody and anybody. I always think of this as an opportunity to go out and an excuse to get some nice dinners from time to time, and maybe get a chance to talk to some of the owners of the place, and maybe hand off an invitation in the process. So it can be a double win in that way, I guess. But there's, it's aggressive, but not overly aggressive, right? Like, we're just thoughtful and just put ourselves out there and let people know what we're doing and invite them to join us.
Is it like 30 to 50 type of size?
We had hundreds of people come to 150, 200, I want to say, was somewhere in the number. We did it at the Cabot Theater in Beverly. I think our scale is going to be much smaller, but I do think, though, that leveraging our collective networks that exist and inviting people to come, all it takes is a couple of people that say, yeah, this is great, I'm doing this. And like Sarah was meeting with somebody who has been very successful in the West Coast of the country in California with a retail upscale boutique clothing. And I had a chance to meet them real quick while they were having coffee a few weeks ago. And she was super excited. She's like, I've just moved to this area, but I love it. There's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity in downtown. Topsfield's great. It's just getting people to know. I talk to people all the time who talk about Topsfield as being a dry community. And we all know that's not even close to the truth anymore. What?
It was for so long. That's why.
Exactly. So, it's just, getting that out there. And again, it'll plant the seed in a lot of ways for people. I don't think it's going to generate an investment like in 24 hours, but maybe a year out or 2 years out, you get a couple of people who make that investment to do something interesting, and it'll time up, with, if we do get money for a master plan, it'll time up with properly the zoning changes associated with that. So it could kind of come together well in that sense, but it's more just letting people know it exists and getting people to pay attention to us. So maybe, I totally danced around that question, Lynn, I'm sorry. So maybe 50 people, maybe 100, maybe more if we get really pay attention and try to get out there.
Okay, great. Well, maybe we could reach out to Rosalie's daughter again. We saw the fantastic videos she made for us last time.
She'll help any way she can. It's her senior year in college, and I'm sure she would be willing to add it to her resume again.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Very nice.
I'm writing that down, Rosalie. That's going in pen.
You have her number. You know how to get a hold of her.
I do.
Happily help the entire town. She loves it.
That's great.
Kevin, do you have on your list the that restaurant group that owns like Maggie's Farm and the Spot and 15 Walnut?
That's the Serenity Restaurant Group.
Yep. And then what about the people that own En Fuego in Beverly?
I don't know them very well. I've met them. I don't know them very well.
Okay.
But yeah, they're doing they did a great job over there.
Yeah.
There's a few other restaurants that people I just know from my experience who have multiple spaces or individual spaces. And I know a couple of the owners of properties that put into their spaces like size to what we have, right? Tenants who do really interesting things that I would love to talk with as well. But, like I said, we just need to make it really clear in the invitation they get free lunch, and then hopefully they make the trip to Topsfield.
Kevin, did you ever leave behind? Did they walk away with some kind of brochure about Beverly?
Packet. So it would be, we had really nice packets made up. We'd create a logo for the whole event. I mean, I don't know how much from a capacity. I mean, we had a planning department in Beverly, like 6-8 people, including the admins.
We have Donna.
We do have Donna, and we have us, right? We have us, and I'm not
and us.
Serious. Like the ECDC is a great resource, right? Like we've got people like Alex who just stepped up, and others I'm sure will as well, who could, if we put together a subcommittee, spend a couple hours, a couple of weeks, through the winter trying to put something together. I'm pretty confident we'll be able to do in Beverly if as good. Why not better? If not better.
I think it's absolutely essential. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rosa.
I said I'm happy to help over the winter.
Great.
Yeah, that time would be great. December is a little slower for me, so if we get started then, I'd love to help. I just feel like to make this as useful as possible for the attendees, right? Make it, what's the current opportunity in Topsfield? Where are the vacant spaces? Where are the opportunities currently short term? Where are the long term ones, like the master plan? I really break it down for them. And I mean, as a property owner, like either in downtown or Route 1, I would love this, right? Like, oh wow, I have a vacant space. What a great opportunity to market it, right? They could do work on our behalf, right? Like give them a template and say, hey, fill this out for us, and we'll add it to the event. So I think there's easy ways to leverage people who stand to benefit from something like this as well.
Yeah, that's true. And then I was also thinking the what was it called again? The revitalization visioning work that was done. Remember that meeting? What came out, attending all the information that was presented there that night for the community can be used for this, just kind of marketed to a different, like that was the target audience was residents for that one, but just change your target audience. And all that information, I have to tell you, I remember looking at the parking study, and that was a shift for us, for our decision as a coffee shop, because those kinds of things help.
So what was it about the parking study that kind of what drove you?
There was this impression that would be an impediment, like that there was just never going to be. There was always going to be a problem with parking. Was the impression before, but the parking study kind of proved us wrong.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, no, it's absolutely true.
I think would be really wonderful to have in time for the showcase are those signs on Route 1 pointing downtown. That gives us a good amount of time to find some funding and get those created and up so that they're impressed that we are actually making headway and that some of the things that we had planned and envisioned, they're actually starting to see. I'd love to have those up by then.
Great idea.
All right. Any other thoughts on this, or any other people have some time to work with Kevin? I have done Alex and Rosalie. No pressure. Any other names? Any other names? Takers? Well, if you feel like you have some additional time,
I
just
can
reach
help.
out to Kevin. Okay,
I can help over the winter.
Thanks, Janet.
great.
I can offer advice, but I feel like we might be pretty busy this winter.
You're gonna be busy.
Definitely.
Terrific. All right. Anything else, Kevin, that you want to share or that we should bring up before we end for the night?
No, just thanks for all the support as always, everybody. I mean, I really feel like right now we're starting to see, some of the work we've been doing starting to take shape, right? And these are the big things we've been talking about for some time: the garage, the master plan, now promoting the downtown and recruitment through the business showcase. So these are the big ones. So it's going to be busy. So
a lot of the information and pictures and things about what to do in town and what's here is on the TCP website. I know a lot of those beautiful pictures that come from Kindra, but there's so much great information there that we could leverage or use in the video that Zoe's going to do for us. So there's a lot of information ready to go. We're not doing everything just from scratch.
Yeah. And also our Topsfield Garden Club webpage that has an awful lot of information.
That's true, Janet.
The agricultural backgrounds, a lot of the historical backgrounds of Topsfield. So there's a lot of information out there to glean from.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, we're working on the website redesign as well. So, you talk about branding. This is all hopefully, again, timing wise, if we can push ourselves through it all and do it right, it'll all sort of time up pretty well this spring to kind of make a big splash, hopefully. So, because that's where people will go. Our traffic will go through the website, right? And so if we redesign it and we have places for people to find information there and it looks thoughtful and purposeful, as our new front door, the website, the web, that's another component of this if we're able to move that too. So no, it's really exciting. Timing well.
Great. Okay. If there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn? Janet? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. We'll do roll call. Kevin?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Zilly?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Rosalie?
Aye.
Okay, great. Nobody wants to stay on, and an aye from myself as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good.
Good night.
Aye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.